Hey, Brandy, thanks for getting these in. It looks like you followed the instructions just fine, and I see significant differences between each of your compositions. So I know that you're using two different meter settings, so that's perfect. That's what I expect to see. And then here you did a great job, even though you weren't asked to, of labeling each image with whether or not you shot it in incident or reflective. You gave me all your exposure settings. You even gave me the date it was shot, which is great. So, that's great. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 finals, and a blank page, which is I don't want the blank page, but I want the 4 finals. So great. And then I have some of your exposure settings here too. Looks like they got cut off, but I can relocate them in your contact sheet, so that's fine. And you told me when they were reflective or incident, so perfect. And then I only have 2 criticisms. One, a lot of these images look really out of focus to me, like this one, and this one, and this one. This one's crisply in focus, but the first 3 look a little bit out of focus. And I'll tell you, I think I know why that is, if I can find them here. So that one's reflective. It's 1/40th of a second. Yeah, I think you're shooting at speeds lower than 1/60th of a second without a tripod. So they're not real crisp and clear, because there's a little bit of camera shake. And so you know, for a class that is leading you toward becoming a professional, that is not acceptable. And I can't remember if in this class there's ever a little note about that, like the big cutoff for when you need a tripod is 1/60th of a second. I don't remember. I don't know. It seems like something you should have come across in your lectures, but I don't know, in other classes, but I don't know. But anyway, so now you know. 1/60th of a second is the cutoff. If you've got to shoot at a shutter speed slower than 1/60th of a second, or even at 1/60th of a second, your best bet is to stabilize your camera somehow, some way. Monopods are even fine for this. They keep you just steady enough. Now, if you're me and you're super shaky, you really can't shoot at 1/25th of a second and lower without seeing some camera shake. But, you know, that's me. Maybe you're of a sounder mind and body than me. I don't know. But the cutoff is officially 1/60th of a second. I cut off at 1/25th. Anything below that, I use a tripod. For stuff I'm serious about, you know. And then my other gripe, and gripe's a strong word, but is that your PDF, and I'm giving people criticism about this, like a lot of people, so don't take it personally about this week, just because I don't want it to happen all term, is that your PDF is a really low quality, meaning that it's too pixelated. So you want to check your Adobe Acrobat and make sure that you're outputting images of high quality, so that's just a setting in there someplace of high quality. And then second, make sure that you're outputting images that default to the largest monitor size option they give you. Now, it's not going to mess with your ability to view your PDFs. PDFs automatically open up to resize to monitor. However, if you have it defaulted to a small monitor size, then you're making image files that are only, say, like 1 to 200 dpi, which is really not big enough for me to review as your instructor and like sort of hypothetical client. Instructors and clients, mostly clients, are always going to be looking at the images that they're paying money for at as high a resolution as they can. And so a lot of people are giving me images that are not at very high resolution. As a matter of fact, in your first image here, it's a bit pixelated. Like all my diagonal lines go because they're pixelated. So just make sure that your output is much higher. And then I know just from experience that the finals were put together in Lightroom and then exported as PDF or print to PDF. And that's where you'll find the setting to default setting for what sort of monitor size you want to output for. Make sure you're choosing the biggest monitor size. And I have to tell you, my opinion is I don't think Lightroom does a good job exporting PDFs. I think even when students do everything they can to make them as high quality as possible, they're still pixelated on my monitor. Now granted, I have a really big monitor, but still, I just don't like it. I don't. I really prefer it when people just take the JPEG, the original JPEG, and link it up in a PDF. I prefer that. I know it's a little bit tricky to get all your information on there that way, but that's what I like. But whatever. That's just my brothers. All right, so let's talk about your compositions. And in regards to your metering, you got results that I would expect you to have. So it looks to me like you're using your meter correctly. And then your compositions actually, I'd say they're pretty interesting. You know, you're shooting an area that's got a lot of visual information, a lot of visual stimulus. So I think that's a really interesting spot to shoot at. And if you have more assignments for this class where that works, you might want to revisit the area. Because right now what you're doing is you're kind of giving us, you gave us a lot of really broad scenes. Now I know the assignment required that you shoot half of your images broad scene of the whole landscape and then half of something close up. But even the close up ones, like I'm assuming this is kind of a close up, like there's still a lot of information. So I think it would be interesting as just like a photography exercise for you to go back and try to do a better job isolating your subject matter. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with your compositions. I just think it might be interesting. Like, you could get a lot closer to this shrub here, or palm, or whatever it is, or whatever is supposed to be the subject. But you can see how there's so much information in the image, it's a little difficult to tell what the subject is. But the color in this is beautiful. The white balance, by the way, is gorgeous in this image. It's really nice. And then this one, yeah, like, I'm not really sure what my subject is, because there's so many leading lines, and they're all going in that direction, but then the bulk of the visual weight, the visual emphasis is right here, but the leading lines are taking me over here. Hopefully this conversation sounds familiar to you because of your photographic design class. So just think a little bit more about that. That's about all the feedback I have. This is a pretty nice image, but again, we have all of the visual weight down here on the horizon line, and I think that you could have, you know, squatted your body down lower and looked up at this sign and cleared out all this information from the background and got a much more interesting image. And then there's a blank screen. Yeah, that's how I know this is done on Lightroom. Lightroom oftentimes produces a black image at the end. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyways, overall pretty good. Thanks for all the detailed information that you included. That's really good. And then again, like I said, make sure you take your tripod out with you on your shoots, on your location shoots, because, sorry, you'll need it at 1/60th or slower on shutter speeds. Okay, thanks, Brandy.